Hey guys, how's it going? Kripparrian here, coming at you from BlizzCon hotel room, I guess. So the expansion was announced. So Mean Streets of Gadgetzan is coming up in early December, I guess. So any date that isn't tomorrow is too late as far as hardcore Hearthstone players are concerned. But hey, I guess that'll do. And at BlizzCon they announced a bunch of the new cards, so we get a feel for them. We get to really understand what their idea is for this expansion, and I wanted to review the cards and talk a little bit about the impression overall. So, yes, it's got over 130 cards, and some of them have multi-class types. So some of them, and listed here, there's the Grimy Goons that are Hunter, Paladin, Warrior cards, and these are cards that look like neutral cards but have a little bit of a banner, and they can be used in either one of the three classes. So far, these type of cards that have the multi-class cards are pretty dull. They're basically just discover whatever, and it seems like there's some potential there, and maybe it's, wave of the future for Hearthstone. We'll have to see. The Cabal are Mage, Priest, Warlock, and the Jade Lotus cards are Druid, Rogue, and Shaman. So those kind of like the themes going on in this expansion. So to kick it off, awesome Druid card. Kuhn the Forgotten King, 10 mana 7/7. Choose one, get 10 armor, or refresh your mana crystals. So basically, it can be a 0 mana 7/7, but you have to get 2 turn 10 or ramp temporarily through different effects that Druid does have to 10 mana to really play the card. And actually, the card resembles very much a card that I think I highlighted in one of my best user-created cards. This type of mechanic is really cool. It has a lot of potential. Basically, if you get to a high mana level, you are rewarded. And I think the card is one of those wild cards. It can be like it's too slow and will never see any play, or it can be like deck-defining, game-breaking, potentially Druid card. And it's tough to say which one of the two it'll be, but as a standalone card, it's definitely pretty damn cool, and I will certainly be trying it out. And then there's Lunar Visions, 5 mana, draw 2. Minions drawn cost 2 less. So pretty fair card. If you have a lot of minions in your deck, it's pretty good. If it lands on 1 minion, it satisfies the traditional pay 3 mana, draw 2 cards. But, it costs 5 rather than 3 to activate, so that makes it a little bit worse. But because you have a chance of getting 2 minions, and if the chance of getting like 1.5 minions is the average for your deck, then the card is pretty damn good. So, interesting card. Seems good to me. We have Pilfered Power, 3 mana, gain an empty mana crystal for each friendly minion. This seems like a really powerful card, but it's kind of dividing on the Druid archetypes. So a lot of Druid decks have just few minions, lots of spells. A lot of Druid decks have a lot of minions and like no draw, but those ones don't need to ramp. So it seems like an extraordinarily powerful card, but it doesn't fit in any traditional deck if you really think about it. So is it deck defining? Is it good enough to have like a curve druid or something like that? I would think not, but surprise me. Then we have Mark of the Lotus, 1 mana, give your minions +1/+1. And, there's a druid card, choose one that does this for 2 mana. Is it worth it for 1 mana? I don't really think it'll be like game breaking again, but again, it could be. It's a very powerful card. I think it's going to be a very good addition to like the Raven Idol arsenal, something like that. So it's good that it exists at least. And a Hunter Weapon, Piranha Launcher. 5 mana, 2/4. Whenever your hero attacks, summon a 1/1 Piranha. The Piranhas are indeed beasts. They don't have any special abilities, just 1/1s. That's it. And seems like a pretty good card. I mean, if you get 4 attacks in, it is obviously super value. If you compare it to a card like Doomhammer, it does less damage, but you put minions on the board, you basically get 4/4 worth of stuff on the board throughout the life of the card. So it's kind of like one of those cards that pay out if you stay in the game for a long time. And really, that's not something Hunter does very well. So I'll be curious to see if this card is good enough to make that Hunter type of deck alive. And I would guess not, but cool card. Then we have Manic Soulcaster, 3 mana, 3/4 mage card. Battlecry, choose a friendly minion, shuffle a copy of it into your deck. So this card is pretty nice. It just fits the standard 3 mana, 3/4 super powerful 3-drop slot, and it has a pretty decent effect. Very powerful if you're playing a fatigue deck. Very powerful if for whatever reason you're choosing to have singles only in your deck, and your deck relies on very few and specific legendary cards. So, overall, it's not like the broken power level, but I think it might fit a spot in some constructed decks, and it just fits the good power level. So if there's ever a need for the synergy and it's not better placed by another card, you might use the card. Why not? Then we have the Paladin Legendary card, 3 mana 2/2, Wicker Flame, Burn Bristle, I guess. So, yeah, Divine Shield Taunt. Of course, it's a Paladin Legendary. And this one, damage dealt by this card heals your hero for that damage dealt, so it's obviously extremely powerful with buffs, but the reason I think the card will probably not... Okay, it's a really good card. Okay, it's a really good card, but I fear that the card will have a lot of setbacks because priests will have an easy time disposing a card like this, and as you will soon see, there's probably going to be a lot of priests on ladder very soon. And we have Small Time Recruits, 3 mana, draw 3, 1-cost minions from your deck. So this card doesn't look that powerful, but I think it's extremely powerful. 1-drops in this game are just so busted in terms of overall mana efficiency that paying 6 mana to play 3 chosen 1-drops is actually fair. So you get a fair card, and you basically get to thin your deck out of 1-drops, so your top decks are super insane. And this is actually the main strength of Secret Paladin, so actually I think this card is incredibly powerful. The one downside with it is it's basically straight draw, so it basically competes for Divine Favor slot. So it's a ridiculously powerful card, and Divine Favor is also a ridiculously powerful card, but I don't think both of them will work together very well in a deck. So I don't think it forwards that deck too much, but maybe. It definitely seems very good. It's definitely better than Divine Favor in cases where there's a lot of other aggro decks where Divine Favor fails, and Small Time Recruits will absolutely succeed. So really cool card and likely very powerful. And Mean Street Marshal, 1 mana, 1/2, Death Rattle. If this minion has 2 or more attack, draw a card. So if you have a lot of buffs, and if you're playing decks probably with a prior card, you probably have a lot of buffs. So yeah, the card was pretty decent in that type of deck. Getaway Kodo, new Paladin secret. When a friendly minion dies, return it to your hand. So I don't like it that much. It's definitely going to have some cases if you have extremely powerful Death Rattle or Battlecry minions, or just a lot of both of those categories. The card's probably going to be pretty powerful, but I feel like there's going to be cards that are going to satisfy this role a little bit better than this one. Priest card, Dragon Fire Potion. For some reason, I guess I overlooked this card when they were originally revealed because I played at BlizzCon and got smashed by it. Oh my god, this card is insanity. So this card just feels like an auto-include in every Priest deck, and it's particularly ridiculous in Dragon Priest because it won't even damage your own, like, wow. Okay, this card is nutso. Yeah. Hello, Priest Overlords, I guess. Then we have Draconoid Operative, as if we needed more incentive to play Dragon Priest. 5 mana, 5/6, extremely good stats on its own. It's a dragon, so enable other dragons if you need it. And the Battlecry, if you're holding a dragon, you discover a card from your opponent's deck. So it's about as good as card draw. Usually cards that take cards from your opponent's deck are a little bit worse than card draw because you usually lose the synergistic side of that exchange, but because you get to choose between the 3, you can probably find one that is actually pretty fitting in the given situation, plus you get the information of 2 other cards from your opponent's deck, so you get a better idea about what they're playing. So I actually think it's better than draw card. So it's 5 mana, 5/6 dragon, and if you're holding a dragon, draw a little bit more than 1 card. So that's absolutely insane. And we have Pint-Sized Potion. 1 mana, give all enemies -3 attack this turn only. Seems like a pretty clunky card to use, but if you'd ever get even one decent use, it's probably amazing. So hard to gauge this card. Again, could be useless, could be really good. One of those wild cards in the game. Priest is going to have so many insane cards after this expansion that it's really difficult, even though this card looks really good, to say that it's going to be better than those other cards, because Priest has just traditionally been one of these classes that has a fairly tight budget for card slots in their decks, and we'll see. Maybe it'll work out. And we have Cabal Talon Priest, 3 mana, 3/4 Battlecry, give a friendly minion +3 health. Yes, this card is really good, guys. Really, really good. It's a common card, so you're going to see a lot of them in Arena, and I actually think that's kind of a problem, because if a Priest goes first, their 2-drop is often going to stick. Now, Priests have really crappy 2-drops and almost non-existent 1-drops, but if you go first, usually your 2-drop sticks, and if your 2-drop sticks and you play this on it, you will just likely just win the game on the spot. So that is ridiculously big for priests in Arena. I think it might be a bit of a problem card in Arena, in fact. But it's on priest, so again, I welcome our priest overlords, I suppose. Potion of Madness. 1 mana, gain control of an enemy minion with 2 or less attack until end of turn. So it's like Shadow Madness, except more restrictive, but it costs 1 mana and is common. Holy crap. Like, it's just insanity, right? Like, these cards are ridiculous. If you manage to put in some attack debuffs, or if... the thing is, like, I think this card is really good, and I think Priest is going to be so good that this card and Priest being good together is going to marginalize out classes that require the use of 2 or less attack minions. So it's not like it'll counter 2 or less attack minions. It'll push those decks out of the meta, potentially, is what I'm saying. Rogue card, Lotus Assassin, 5 mana, 5/5 stealth. When this minion kills an enemy, gain stealth. So just going to chain stealth. Very powerful card. The 5/5 stealth line has been very strong just on its own without an ability. So obviously this card is pretty good. Now, Rogue has kind of lost its identity in the past. Blizzard tried to take it in many different directions. I don't think this direction is going to be particularly strong, but who knows. This one does go with a very ancient direction, a very ancient deck in Hearthstone. Counterfeit Coin is basically just a coin, but it's a card you can put in your deck and you can have 2 of. So the card is obviously very bad if you don't have extreme synergy with it, but Rogue can absolutely have extreme synergy with this card. If you're playing a Miracle Rogue, or if you want to get like a giant cleave or something, whenever you have an auctioneer in play and you stumble on this card, it's going to be game breaking. It's just going to be so big. So will the Miracle Rogues pop up? Well, if priests get really good, yeah, probably, actually. So this is probably going to be a very important card to beat out the priests. I know a guy. 1 mana warrior card, discover a taunt minion. Now, taunt minions are generally mid-range cards, so it's kind of a weird one. Most taunts just fit the same role as one another. They just block an attack or 2. So to just discover one, I feel like you're going to get a lot of very similar options. That might be pretty good. Warriors who play control don't typically have a turn 1 play, so the fact that you get a lower quality taunt than one you'd put in your deck, I think will be offset by the fact that you'd curve out a little bit better and you'd choose a taunt that you'd actually need right away. So I think it's a fair card, and maybe we'll see some of it. And then on to the neutrals, but these are not exactly neutrals. So the Lotus, I think is, Druid, Rogue, or Shaman. You can play this in either one of those 3 classes, and Battlecry discover one from those classes. Now, it doesn't actually tell you exactly what it does, so it gives you 1 Druid card, 1 Rogue card, and 1 Shaman card. You can't get like 3 Rogue cards, so you're very likely to pick a card that's outside your class, and it's slightly better than a draw card, I think, and the stat line for drawing a card is fair, so it's a fair card, I guess. Pretty nice. Then we have a version for Hunter, Paladin, Warrior, the Grime Street dudes, 2 mana guy. Why not? Then we have the Mage, Priest, and Warlock variety, the Cabals. Sure. And then the only other card that fits into this like multi-class thing is Kazakus. So Kazakus is like the last one. It's like Mage, Warlock, and Priest, I believe. This is not a neutral legendary. Don't get too excited about playing this in Control Warrior. You cannot play this in Control Warrior unless you monkey it. And then, wow. So Battlecry, if your deck has no duplicates, it's kind of like the Reno effect, create a custom spell. Stat line sucks, so what is the spell? So I got a screenshot here from some of the demos. So first it asks you to pick a card that costs 1 mana, 5 mana, or 10 mana. 1 mana card is going to have about a third of the power of a 10 mana card and about half of the power of a 5 mana card. So you can play it on turn 5 and play the spell immediately. You can play it on turn 9, play the spell immediately. You can play it on turn 4 and then curve out with the turn 5 spell, or you can just be super greedy and get the 10 mana card. So the spell has 2 aspects, and these aspects scale more or less. So the first one is either you get cards from your opponent's deck, or you deal damage to everything, all minions at least, or you draw cards. And this is the 10 mana variety. So if you pick the 1 mana variety, instead of draw 3 cards, draw 1 card. So it scales more or less like that. And then the second part of the spell is what you see at the bottom there. So summon 3 friendly minions that died this game, gain 10 armor, or transform all things into sheeps. Now, I think the sheep one is the only one that doesn't scale. I don't exactly know how that one works, but I imagine it just transforms a few random or 1 random. I don't know exactly. But the idea is you can just clear the board and summon things that died this game from your graveyard. And that's absolutely insane. Of course. Alright, now moving to the actual neutral minions, we can kick it off with Finja the Flying Star. It's 5 mana, 2/4 Murloc. It's got stealth, and when it attacks and kills, those are the 2 attack and kill. You can't, like, take a hit and kill. Summon 2 Murlocs from your deck. This means just random Murlocs from your deck. And, you know, well, the card seems pretty decent as a whole. Cool ability. Whatever. It's obviously extremely understated, so if people are playing board clears and stuff, and they probably will be, it's going to be pretty bad. But I do just think of in the arena environment, a lot of the time you're playing Murloc Knights when you're playing Paladin. If you play Murloc Knight, just happen to get this from your inspired, hero-powered, random Murloc activation, well, that would be insane. So it's great for that, at least, if it doesn't see any constructed play. And don't think it will. Murlocs, as good as they have been in the past, have generally not made it. And then Mistress of Mixtures. 1 mana, 2/2. And the Death Rattle restores 4 health to both players. So this is a very interesting card. It's, again, one of these like health consequence, super powerful 1-drop. Now, a 1 mana 2/2 will often lose to a 2 mana 2/3. It only really trades with other 1-drops and like almost half of the 2-drops out there. Probably not even close to that in terms of constructed, but you get the idea. It's good, but the stat line is still a little bit weak. We used to have the 1 mana 2/3s with the heal, but you know, this is a lot weaker than that in terms of like board presence. But the fact that it also heals you, I think makes it a pretty solid include in decks where you're using board clears that affect both sides of the board. So if at a later time in the game, if you can use this just as a form of 4 healing to yourself, and that is relevant, that's actually a really powerful card because it's an early game on-curve 1-drop that's solid, not overpowered, solid, but can also be played for positive use in the late game. That's just really, really strong. And we got Patches the Pirate. It's a 1 mana 1/1 pirate. He's got charge. After you play a pirate, summon this minion from your deck. So, you know, this is a pretty interesting card. I played with some fairly similar mechanics in other card games, and I have to say, in other card games, these were really powerful effects, though this is a really small card. The way I think about it is it a big deal if you just put this card in your deck? It's 1 mana, 1/1 charge, and it's got pirate synergy. No, that's alright. And if you just have like 4-ish plus pirates in your deck, it's just actually really good. It adds extra value to all of them that you play. It adds consistency. So when you start the game, you have that extra push, and having an extra push at the start of the game is a really big factor. There's obviously some crazy combos that the devs try to highlight when showcasing the card. I would not bet on that kind of BS, but the card just on its own, I think is a fun card. Pretty good card. Yeah, I think it's alright. I don't think it'll really change any deck or anything, create any genre. I don't think so, but it's a nice card. Then Wind Up Burglebot, 6 mana 5/5 mech. It's a mech. There's very few of those. So if you're still trying to push the synergy, maybe this will help you do that. Whenever this attacks a minion and survives, draw a card. Survives referring to this guy. So the way I think about it is, can you have this guy stay alive a turn on the board so your opponent doesn't kill it just with a spell or just attacks into it, so you can actually make an attack and have it stay alive, and how likely is that? So overall, I think it's pretty optimistic, but let's just say that you designed a deck to where Wind Up Burglebot will almost always attack into something and stay alive to get that card draw. It's basically 6 mana 5/5 draw card, and I just don't think that's going to happen a second time. So if it's like never draw 2 cards, then it's just kind of crappy. Drawing 1, I just don't feel is good enough. I'm kind of surprised that it's an epic card. I don't really understand that, but whatever. I guess you can have some shitty cards every now and then, and this absolutely does seem to be one of them. Then we have Fell Orc Soul Fiend, 3 mana, 3/7. At the start of your turn, deal 2 damage to this minion. So a pretty nice guy if you have like a silence or something like that. Even if you don't, it's basically a 3 mana for a 3/5 that just kind of kills itself later on. But if you have some extremely powerful healing abilities, maybe you can counteract that a great deal. Though I think it's a bit clunky. It does seem like, again, one of these cards that has a reasonable amount of potential. Just very interesting and potentially very powerful. I think that potential is going to be hard to realize in Arena, however, even though that's where just vanilla high stat minions shine. The main issue is their synergy is much harder to produce. And Big Time Racketeer, 6 for a 1/1. The Battlecry summons a 6/6 Ogre. So you get 6 for 7/7 in stats, but it's distributed across 2 minions. That's really good if your class doesn't have a ping and you're playing Arena. Otherwise, yeah, it's okay, I guess. Yeah, just okay. Second Rate Bruiser, 5 mana, 4/5 Taunt, and we do have some cards at this power level that of course are not seeing any play, but if it was 4 mana, 4/5 Taunt, that would be very good. Its ability makes it cost 2 less if your opponent has at least 3 minions, and I think that's a pretty reasonable requirement. I think a lot of time if you're playing against fast, aggro, mid-range, zoo decks, all of that, 3 minions is very common. You often see 3 minions in control mirrors. So, the requirement is pretty low, and it'll be there when you need it. If your opponent has 1-drop into double 1-drop, you can maybe coin this guy and actually have some chance in that game. And I think that's pretty nice. I think it's a nice card. It's difficult to guess the meta because I feel like Priest is going to do a pretty good job just slaying a lot of these marginal decks. So if it's a Priest meta, well, this might struggle to find common discounts. So yeah, that would make it a lot worse and probably unplayable. Kooky Chemist, 4 mana, 4/4 Battlecry, swap the attack and health of a minion. It's kind of like Crazed Alchemist, probably a bit worse because you mostly use the card for the effect, but it's common. You'll see it a lot in Arena. Should be interesting. I actually really like the card. I think it's a good effect, strategic card. You'll see a lot of it in Arena. 3 things, awesome. And Friendly Bartender. So 2 mana, 2/3. At the end of your turn, restore 1 health to your hero. Now that's not too bad. I mean, that can just over time build up to a lot of healing. But again, I don't think it's quite constructed level powerful. So just kind of is what it is. Anyway, guys, that's all the cards they delivered to us at BlizzCon. Overall, it does seem like Priest just got like the Shaman treatment. Priest just got such a high number of absolutely absurd cards. But at the same time, we didn't see what the other classes got. While it definitely seems like the Priest cards are the most powerful, they did choose to release most of the Priest cards at the start. So kind of gives people that sense of optimism. Maybe Priest will go places. I think it certainly go places, but, it might be the case that everyone is getting ridiculously powerful cards, and they just decided to show the Priest ones first. So I don't think that's exactly going to be the case. We'll have to see. A Priest meta will mean a lot of different things. A lot of the cards we saw will have pretty devastating counters towards aggressive decks. So, I know I've said it in a lot of expansions, that control meta and that and that and that. Just at this point, I've said it so many times, it's never come true that it kind of just seems nonsense even to my own head. But who knows? It could actually happen this time. Control meta? Maybe. Hope you guys enjoyed my review. I'll see you guys later.